Hello everyone. My name is Laura Good. I work in the Festival Programming Department here at TIFF. Thank you so much for joining us for the Q&A. I would like to welcome back to the stage Director Thomas Vinterberg, Director of The Hunt. Greatly deserved standing ovation. First, I might start off with asking, what was your inspiration behind turning this story into a film?
A dark winter night in Copenhagen. We have plenty of those. A psychiatrist knocked my door. He was living down the street, I didn't know him, and he said, listen, you did the Celebration some years ago. That's a film I did some years ago, and there's another film you have to do. You cannot hear me? Okay, I'll kiss the microphone. So this psychiatrist knocked my door and said, you did the Celebration, there's another film you have to do as well. Here's one of the cases, and I think you should read it. And I did not. I shelved it for about 8 years or something. And then I needed a psychiatrist. And I thought I had to read it before calling him. And I thought maybe I can conduct my conversation with him. How it would work. So, no, seriously, then I read it and I was blown away by it and shocked by it and horrified. And also I found, I'm not a priest or a moralist, but I did find that there was a little bit of an obligation. I found that having made a film about a child abuser and thrown light on that in the 90s, maybe I should do the antithesis to that of some kind.
Well said, thank you. I'd like to open up questions to the audience. This gentleman in the front.
I actually have two questions. I was just wondering why you made the decision to jump a year ahead, and what you imagined happened in that year's time. And I was just going to ask you why you imagined Lucas decided to stay.
So the question for everyone in the back is the decision to jump the film ahead a year, and what, in terms of the filmmaker's perspective, was Lucas's decision for staying?
Well, good questions. Thank you very much. The jump ahead in time, for me, was important to sort of create a sense of a healing, a hope that this has gone away, that the spell has disappeared. At least we can have the doubt, are they all friends now or not friends now? Is there a possible life here in this town for him, with his family? The reason for him staying, do you mean at the end, or do you mean...
Yeah, just at the end. Like
throughout. Well, I think him leaving the town would have proven him guilty somehow. Also, he's a very stubborn man. I am too. And Mads Mikkelsen is very stubborn as well. So for us it was very natural to stay. But he's a stubborn man who believes in the good in other people. And he believes that this, because he didn't do it, this will go away at some point. And he keeps believing that. And you also find that he has the rights to believe that, I guess. I don't know whether he stays at the end or not. You'll have to find out.
And you gentleman at the front on the right.
Absolute powerful performance by Mads Mikkelsen. He definitely deserved the Time Award. What I wanted to ask you is, I personally, I don't work with children, so I don't understand the psychology behind why certain kids, and like what the film said, that most of the time they do tell the truth. But in this case, that it was complete fabrication. How do you explain why kids would, tell this kind of lies, or make such accusations? Like, what's the psychology behind it? Is it because that Clara was embarrassed that she was rejected, or?
So the question is about working with children, firstly, and secondly, about the psychology behind why children tell lies. Is that something that you investigated while you were preparing for this feature?
Well, we did a lot of research and read a lot of cases. And what you see on the screen today is the airplane version of real life. It's horrifying what people have been saying about each other and what they've been going through. You never know if they lie. That's the complicated thing about this. But there are so many cases where there's so little evidence that anything happened, and it's almost impossible that anything could happen, that we at least take for given that someone is lying sometimes. I consider this a very innocent lie. It's a girl, she has a friend. She reached out for this friend. She's being rejected, and for a slight, small moment, she feels angry about it, and she makes a lie. After that, she's doing it to please the grown-ups. The whole machinery. You see the interrogation scene where she's been asked the same question 2 or 3 times. That's a transcript from a real interrogation. We just left out all the terrible details that the real kids went through. The problem is for these children that, such as in the cases of real child abuse, they become the victims at the end. They end up believing in this. They see gynecologists, they see people go to prison, they see people fight and cry, and they hear the same story over and over again, the interrogation, so it becomes part of their memory. And they actually grow up with the same means, grow up as victims with the same means as those who've been really abused. And therefore, of course, I find it important to put light on, if you understand.
Thank you. And here in the white shirt?
So why was it not shown or portrayed a professional talking to this child and getting at the real story, and him saying, you know, putting 2 and 2 together about the heart and the kiss, and
so the question is about a few of the
defend
things.
himself a little bit more.
A few of the things. The question is about a few of the things that were left out of the film that we saw, but perhaps the protagonist didn't see the connection between, such as why didn't he mention the heart or defend himself further, and why was there not a professional scene speaking with the child? A lot of questions there.
Well, first of all, it would have been a very short film. This is a film about mistakes. It's not a film about rational people reacting rationally. Unfortunately, it's a film about how a lot of people react, according to all the cases that I've read, and all the police interrogations that I've read, where you won't believe what they're saying to these kids. Yeah, that's my answer.
Very well put. Thank you. Anyone at the back? Let's take you in the black.
How did you protect the young actress from really understanding what she was portraying?
Well, she's 7 years old, and so she doesn't understand. And we had to find a balance of not being hysterical and create a secrecy around it that she would feel even more toxic. We had to talk to her parents about it. Every time we had scenes like the scene where they show porn to her, we of course didn't show her any porn. It's added, you know, in CGI after and stuff like that. But she knew pretty much what it was about, and it felt very healthy and cool. And she, you know, she wanted to play with her dolls, and she wanted to be in front of the camera. And we talked about it, but there was no harm done by that. She didn't understand or absorb all the sexuality behind it. She just knew this is about lying. I did something bad, and this is the reason. Blah blah blah. You know.
And she's also not in a lot of those scenes dealing explicitly with that material.
And also, we're in Denmark. No, seriously, it's very different than here. And this film is also a little bit about how kids are protected, and sometimes also overprotected, right? So we did try to find a balance, the most healthy balance we could find.
Thank you. Here at the front in the gray.
Yes, I loved this film. I love your films. I admit that I will watch Mads Mikkelsen read the phone book, but this was considerably better than that. My question is about symbolism that runs through the film, including with the title. And it may be a projection, that's why I want to ask. There is a lot of taxidermy in this film. Taxidermy, a lot of dead animals on the walls, and a dead turtle, and there are guns, and there is hunting, and the film is called The Hunt, and at the very end, Lucas is suddenly, possibly, hunted again. I want to know about the relationship of the hunter and the hunting the hunter and the hunted in your mind in the making of this film, or am I delusional?
So the question for everyone back is about the relationship between the metaphor of the hunted and all of the hunting that happens in the film, metaphorically and literally, as well as the taxidermied animals throughout.
Well, for me, you put it all right. You said it all very precisely. Of course, we were interested in putting up this parallel between the hunter and the hunted. The title I'm not very proud of. It's not that clever. I mean, this guy's being hunted and he's a hunter. I mean, but it's a catchy, nice title, and the distribution is happy with it. It would have looked much more clever without that title. I do find the most important thing for me is that there's a life in this town. There's something going on. They have rituals, they have a past, they have dreams about the future. There's a film around the film. And the life going on, and the rituals of the life going on, is hunting. They have things to do. That for me is very important in every film I do. We try to create a real place where real things are happening. And then something is added. And therefore, the hunting for me was sort of even more, it's important as a metaphor, yes, but as a thing to do, even more important.
Tak.
We have time for one last question. How about this woman standing here? You really have an ambitious question.
Well,
Two more.
It's something that's been bothering me because I remember that several years ago you developed a manifesto about filmmaking. And I've forgotten what that manifesto was called. And I do remember some of the details that were contained in it. And I think it was you and Mr. Twicker, I don't know.
Von Trier, yeah.
Yes, yes. Can you elaborate on that, and if you still follow those principles, and what that manifesto was called?
Wow. It was called Dogma 95. That's why you can't remember it. Back from 95, and I almost even can't remember it myself. Even though I did about 2,000 interviews about it. I was the Dogma Church missionary, the spokesman. It was a manifesto Von Trier and myself did in 95. I'm not going to go through it. We tried to strip the film down to the naked truth, as close as truth you can come in terms of fiction. Handheld camera, no artificial lights, no music, stuff like that. And we ended up doing, I think, a great bunch of movies. And therefore, we couldn't continue with it. We're artists. We have to renew ourselves. We have to not repeat ourselves. Then I feel old. It reminds me that I have to die if I stop repeating myself too much, you know? So that's over. Dogma's over, but it was wonderful.
That was a fantastic question. I was wondering that myself. Up here at the front.
I'd like to ask you, first of all, thank you so much for the celebration for this and for all your films. What I'm curious mostly about, and not specifically with this film, but though I'd be curious about how it relates to this film as well, is your creative process, the screenwriting process. Is it something you enjoy? Is it painful? Is it drawn out? Is it? If you could just describe your approach to screenwriting and creating the film before you go to camera, what that would be like.
So the question is about the creative process, sort of beginning pre-production, through screenwriting through to post.
Well, my sort of general way of working is that I do a lot of preparation, a lot of hard work in the script process, in the process of rehearsing with the actors, having conversations with the actors, having conversations with the crew over and over and over again, so that when you end up in front of the camera, you can let go. That's the moment of liberation. That's the moment where you have a solid foundation to stand upon. But that takes a lot of hard work and a lot of pain as well. I do enjoy the writing process more and more the older I get, and I do it faster and faster, which is good. But it is a very thorough process that has to end up somehow playful in front of the camera. And going back and forth between the uplifted, enlightened, playful way of working and the thorough hard work is the art of what we do. You have to constantly balance it. Filmmaking becomes very easily a professional, boring, dry walk through the desert. So you have to find those moments where it's uplifting and fun as well. But basically, it's hard work and then you let go at the end.
Well, thank you so much for all the hard work you did to bring us this film.